Hello and welcome to MidPointe's Oral History Project. Could you please tell us your name, your current position with the library, and what branch you work at?
Yes, my name is Dianna Malott. I am a Patron Services Lead at the Westchester branch.
How long have you been in this position, and how long have you been with the library?
I've been in this position for almost 2 years, and I have been with the library for almost 32 years now.
That's quite a long time. Could you tell us about the roles and responsibilities of your current position?
Yes, in addition to the typical library things like checking in, checking out, looking for holds, helping patrons find things, this position allows me to work one-on-one with people who might have a more complex question or a question that maybe will take a little bit more research. They can make an appointment with us and we can focus just on that one thing that they're looking at. In addition to that, we also proctor tests and we do tours, and we also are responsible for helping to train new staff.
Do you have a favorite or most interesting reference question that you can think of that you've helped a patron with?
You know, I don't know that I have a favorite. I think what I like most is that you'd be surprised at things that we are asked. I've had people call and ask how to go about getting recycling at their home. And so maybe that takes a call to another department or, things like that. So I just really enjoy any type of research.
So what is your day-to-day like?
It's any variety of those things. So I may come in and start with checking in books, looking for holds. I might work the desk for a couple hours. And then maybe later I do passports. That's, another thing that a lot of people don't know we do. And just any variety.
You've kind of mentioned this already, but what do you find most rewarding?
The most rewarding thing to me is working with the patrons. I think that is my passion. And I've enjoyed spending that time with them, getting to know them. We have people who are repeat customers, and it's really great to build relationships with them. I also love working in the children's department. The children are so much fun to watch. They get their little shopping carts, and they load them up with their books, and then they check them out by themselves, and it's really special. That they're going to be lifelong learners.
What do you find most challenging?
One of the most challenging things about the position itself might just be time. There's a lot of projects that we would like to work on, but you kind of have to space those out when you have time. I think in the grand scheme of things, though, I think the most challenging thing for the library is reaching non-library users. A lot of people still think that we are just dusty old books, that nobody uses us, that libraries are obsolete, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. We're very much alive and vibrant, and we offer so many things that people don't know. As I mentioned, passports. Our makerspace is incredible. We have the 3D printers, the vinyl printers, the sublimation printers. We have a Cricut. We have button makers. It's really quite an incredible space. And we have a great staff who work in there, very knowledgeable and very helpful. So there's just so much that I would love to get out there to the public.
What is an accomplishment or project you are particularly proud of in this position?
In this position, I would say being able to use my experience, my years of service, I think it suits this position very well. And it makes me better at helping to train our new staff and troubleshooting problems, that type of thing.
Yeah. So I also kind of touched on this. What is one of the biggest challenges moving forward?
Moving forward, I would say just remaining relevant to our public, their wants and needs, and reflecting that in the library, adding new services, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you mentioned that you've been with the library for over 32 years, or coming up to 32 years. Have you held any other positions at the library in that time?
Yes, I've had several. So I started as a shelver in Middletown and worked in the children's department there. And quite quickly after I started, the job actually changed to a library associate. So the difference was I was able to start actually helping patrons, creating cards, finding books for people, that type of thing. After that, I actually left the library. I was on a sub list, and I took a full-time job as a social worker once I graduated. And I left after a couple of years, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, I really enjoyed the library. I thought I would apply there. And so I ended up applying for a full-time job. And that's when I got a library associate job at Westchester. And so from that point on, I worked at Westchester.
Okay. And what position was that? Library associate?
So I was a library associate in the adult reference section. So that was very different for me. There was a lot to learn. At that time, our reference section was actually quite large, and we had lots of different encyclopedia sets, different questions. And so I had to spend a lot of time learning what resources did we have, what were best for what questions, and that type of thing.
So what was the day-to-day like for that job?
That would be a variety of working on the desk, again, looking for holds. We would help check in as well, especially as we got busier and busier. Our department would help the other department with checking in. And then just a variety of other tasks. Throughout the years, I did many different things within that position. So for example, I would help manage the newspaper and magazine collection. And at that time, there were actually a lot of magazines. So I would say we probably had 80 plus titles at one point, and we probably had 15 different newspapers. So it was a big collection, and I would help determine what magazines that we kept, what we got rid of each year, anything that didn't seem to be useful to people, and we'd replace it with something that maybe people would be interested in. I spent time also checking donations. We took donations at that time. So I would go through them and determine which items might be able to be added to the collection and give those to the collection managers. I would also do the paperbacks as well. So a lot of our collection at that time, the paperback collection, was from donated paperbacks. So I would go through those and kind of decide what to add.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, things have changed a lot.
Yeah, just to point out, we do not accept donations now. Just to nip that one in the bud. All right. Are there any other positions that you want to talk about since you were?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So after that, I became a library specialist and started teaching classes. So that was really enjoyable. I taught basic computer classes. I taught Excel, PowerPoint, Word. I taught iPad classes, and I taught ebook classes as well. I taught an ancestry class. I actually did that twice a year. I really enjoyed sharing that database with people.
It's a very robust one.
Yes.
Another plug for the library, we offer free access to it.
Absolutely.
So any other positions?
After that position, I became the public services supervisor. And at that point, we combined two of our departments. So our customer service front desk and our reference department. So we became one much larger department. And so that involved a lot of cross-training at that point. So we were pretty busy. And then COVID hit. And so at that point, obviously things changed quite a bit. And I would say for me, it was actually quite enjoyable to be able to lead the team through that period of time. It was obviously very hard, very stressful for a lot of people. And I just really enjoyed being able to do what I could for our team.
So 2 follow-up questions. You mentioned there were 2 departments helping. Can you kind of explain what those 2 departments were and what the difference was?
So we had the customer service, which was the front desk. And they would answer the initial questions. They would create all the cards. And then anything that was a little more in depth, they would send back to the reference department. And we had time then to spend maybe just doing some research for them, helping them find books, taking them to the shelves. So it was nice once we combined that we were all able to do the same things.
Okay, that makes sense. And my second question was, do you care to talk about what the library was during COVID? How just that time period?
Sure. So administration did a really great job of putting policies in place to help keep everyone safe. And so within those parameters, we had to make some changes. And one was we moved our main desk to where the self-checkouts are. And that afforded us a little bit more protection from sharing germs. In addition to that, we added curbside service. So that was new for us, and it worked out really well. It was a great opportunity to let people continue checking things out, even though at that time they weren't allowed in the building. We could collect what they needed and take it out to them, and we would put it in the trunk so that we could, again, avoid contact.
I know that summer reading program is quite large at Westchester.
Yes.
How was that impacted by that COVID summer?
Basically, from what I recall, there really wasn't much of one. I don't even remember that for that year.
Yeah. Speaking of which, can you, for the viewers out there, to tell us what happens at Westchester during summer reading? I know you can kind of hear about it, but it's quite interesting.
Yes. So one of the things I have loved about working at Westchester is how busy it is. I like to be busy, and our summers have always been extremely busy. Starting the first day that kids are out of school, families inundate the library, and it's fantastic to see. They're getting their books, they're ready to go for the summer, and they'll pick up their logs as soon as June 1st hits, and they'll get started filling in their logs. So then they bring back their logs when they get to their prize levels. So we spend a lot of time giving out prizes as well. The books fly off the shelf. Summer is hard for making recommendations because a lot of times you'll recommend a book and then it's not on the shelf, and so you have to put it on hold. And we really hate that. We want to get those kids those books in their hands. And a lot of times if you recommend a series, book one is not ever in. So in addition to that, the returns are excessive during the summer. And so we all pitch in. Everyone has always pitched in to help shelve during the summer, and most of it is children's books.
Anything else you want to add about the many positions you've had with the library over the years?
I think that the only other position that I had was after doing the supervisor job, I took a job doing programming. And so a majority of it was doing outreach. I got to go to preschools and daycares and do story times. I absolutely loved that. It was a lot of fun. And it also helped me learn quite a bit about the children's department and literacy. And we would do internal programming as well. And I did some focusing on tween programs. We really didn't have much in that area. And so that was really fun, and we got a good response. So I enjoyed that as well. My favorite the program that I did, though, was one I started with a coworker. It's called Twisty Tangles. And we probably started in maybe 2017, and it's still growing and it's still going strong. And that's very exciting to me. It's a program that's based on Zentangle. And what it is a meditative art. And I liked the meditation aspect of it, especially after COVID when we brought it back. You know, a lot of people needed that. They needed a chance to unwind, to calm their brains. And this was a great way to do it. And it was fun. And you didn't have to be an artist. It involves patterns. So basically you're deconstructing these patterns and teaching them. And you'll find that if you spend time just focused on a pattern, and you're creating that pattern, you forget about everything else. You are just focused on that, and it really frees the brain up and calms you down. it's a great thing to do.
It has a great name. Just for people out here who don't know, what is a tween? What is that defined as?
Oh, tween, yes. So I would say like maybe 9 to 13-ish. That group, really, we were really at that point, we didn't have a lot for them. We do lots of children's programming for younger children, and we had the adult programming. We do have a teen librarian at that time, and so we would do fun things like we did string art. We painted with balloons. It was just so much fun, and the kids really enjoyed it.
Okay, you talked about how you worked at Middletown as a shelver first. So what brought you to the library? What brought you to that shelver position?
Well, I grew up in Middletown, and I always went to that library. That was my library. In fact, I first started going when it was still at the Carnegie it was the Carnegie building. And shortly thereafter, it moved to the building it's in now. And I still have my library card from 3rd grade, I believe, when I was first able to sign my name. And when I started college, I had a friend who had been working as a shelver at the library. They were going away to college, and she let me know that position was going to be open. And I thought that would be perfect for me, so I went and interviewed for it.
Okay, so now that you've mentioned those the Carnegie Library in Middletown and then the Broad Street Library, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience at the Carnegie, since we've been out of that branch for for a while now.
It was really unique. And I don't have a lot of memories because I was so young, but really what stood out was I remember walking in and looking up, and all the books, there were all these books up on this 2nd floor, and the metal flooring and the metal staircase to it. It was just really different. It was a neat building.
Okay, then can you tell us about the Broad Street branch?
When that opened, that was really very exciting. It was just such a great library. I spent a lot of time there growing up. When I went to school at John 23rd, I was just down the street. So a lot of times after school, my friends and I would just walk over there and we would do group projects or study. It was really a great facility. Lots of space, lots of resources.
And you've likely been there recently.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell us how it's changed a little bit?
Yes, lots of changes really from when I was there. There's a makerspace there now, so that's a big thing that changed. There used to be a checkout desk in the front, and now things are shifted around a little bit. And just the movement of the collections, they've moved repeatedly. Our Ohio room, as you know, has moved out of that space. That's where the makerspace is now. And so it covers a different area. The shelves have been cut down so that visually you can see a lot more of the library, and things are easier to reach for people who are short.
So, as you mentioned, you grew up in Middletown. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Middletown?
Yeah, for me, it was wonderful. I loved growing up in Middletown. I had a lot of family in Middletown. So really anywhere I'd go, I usually ran into family. So that was nice. It was a great town. It was a nice, smaller town. You could get anywhere very easy. And we had everything we needed, really. We had the town mall, and there were lots of stores in there. It was full. It had the bigger anchor stores like Sears and McAlpin's and Elder Beerman, and just lots of, the shoe stores and the Gap, and it had really quite a bit of selection. So we would spend a lot of time there.
Do you have any memories of Middletown's other mall, the Middletown Mall / City Center Mall?
Yes, I do remember going there as a child. I think by the time that I started going there with my mom, it was more probably on the kind of decreasing side. But we would go there for Doan's hardware store, And then in addition to that, Swollen's was the big anchor store, and we would go there for that as well.
Did you have a favorite restaurant growing up in Middletown?
Yes, actually, Capozzi's. Capozzi's was an Italian restaurant that was there forever, and our family spent a lot of time there. They had a party room, so we would do birthday parties there. Yeah, it was fantastic.
And where was Capozzi's?
It was on Central Avenue, kind of near where the senior center is, near the Jug.
Perfect. Okay. We're going to switch back now to talking about, you mentioned that when you came back, you went to Westchester. And what building was that? What Westchester building was that?
Yeah, so when I took the job in Westchester, it was on Cox Road. And it had been there since the early 80s. And this would have been the late 90s when I started there. And at that time, Westchester was just really starting to explode. It had been very rural for a long time. And this time frame, like for example, Cox Road just north of Tylersville was just a stub. All that development was not there. In fact, there was a park where the hospital is, McGinnis Park. So I used to go there at lunch and sit in the picnic shelter and have my lunch. VOA Park was there as well, but it was not developed. So it was very different. And we got to watch that growth. And that growth really affected the library. Our patron base increased and increased and increased. And as a result, we had to get more materials and find space for things. During the time I was there were, I think, 2 additions added to make a little more space. Prior to one of the additions, the staff pretty much fought over 5 computers when they were not on desk. So we really didn't have enough room for everyone. So that helped. But really, as time wore on, the check-ins, we could not keep up with the check-ins and the shelving. We really didn't have a lot of space for that. And so that became one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, so what are your general impressions? You kind of mentioned them, but what are your general impressions of that branch?
That building was very cozy. It really was a very homey feeling, a lot of wood. It was a little bit darker. It was very unique. It had its own special vibe to it. When we moved buildings, it was a very different vibe. They're both great, though.
Yeah, so what made it special or unique? Just the coziness?
It was, the coziness, definitely. It just felt very, very comforting when you were there. I think because of the smaller space and the stacks. The bad part was the stacks were dark, and that did make it hard to see the labels sometimes. But it was a great branch.
So you mentioned, so what was the move like to the new branch?
The move was very exciting when we found out we were actually going to get a new building. That was just such great information to have. We looked very forward to being able to expand a little bit and make more room. The move itself was very interesting as we got to watch the new building grow and grow. At the Cox Library, we really had to focus on getting things back up on the shelves because the movers were coming and they had their own carts and they were responsible for loading those carts with our books and then moving them to the new branch. And I just remember at that time we had carts and carts of children's things that were waiting to be put on the shelves. And we wanted everything on the shelf to make it easier when we moved. So we might have had 10 people there shelving in the children's department trying to get caught up before we moved. One thing that really stands out is when we came into the new building was I remember there was a line of those carts that came from the front of the building all the way back to Fiction. And it was just cart, as then the movers then put those books back on the shelf.
What involvement did staff have in the announcement of the new branch? What was that like, finding out about the new branch being built and whatnot?
Mostly it was the administration who put out information about it. But as workers, we got lots of questions about it. And so we were able to share some of the details with people about what was happening and what it might look like when we move.
So were you and staff excited about it?
Yes, definitely. I think all the staff was very excited about it. Again, we just didn't have enough room to serve our customers right. And so I think for that reason alone, we were super excited. Yes.
So we kind of talked about, were you at the grand opening for the CenterPointe?
I was, yeah. So 2009, I think it was in November, we had the grand opening, and the library was packed, and we got such positive feedback. It was really an exciting day.
You mentioned 2009. Well, this branch just celebrated its 15th year anniversary.
Yes.
Last November. So what can you tell us about this branch and this building? This
building was very different from the other building, not just in terms of size. It is I think it's just a little over 3 times the size of the old building. So that was a big change. But the whole atmosphere here is different. It's very open. There's a lot of natural light. It's very airy. There's lots of places to work. So it's very different. But I love working at this branch. I love it.
Well, you kind of mentioned what was the community's reaction? What has been the community's reaction?
Yeah, the community was very happy about it. I know change is hard for people, and so moving from our location, obviously if you lived right by it, they didn't want it to move, which I totally understand. But this put us a little more central to our service district. So there were people on the other side of town who had to drive very far to get to it, and now it was more centrally located, and I think a lot of people appreciated that.
And then what challenges does this building provide?
I don't know. I wouldn't call it challenges, really. It is a lot bigger, so if you're walking from the front to fiction, adult fiction, it is a large, a wide area to cover. One thing that happened early on was we had our large print back near the adult fiction and realized really quickly that that was not a good idea. It's very difficult. A lot of people who read large print are older, and maybe that's too far for them to walk. So we responded to that fairly quickly and moved our large print up closer to the front. But just, it's just been, I think that it's not really been a challenge. As things come up, we just address them and try to make it work, whatever's best for the public.
Yeah, makes sense. And then one last question on this, because it's been 15 years since this branch opened, mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that it has changed?
Oh my goodness. It's changed so much in just the 15 years. But I think that goes along with the world in general. Things with technology, they change so quickly. So that has resulted in things like our collection changing in terms of what we offer. At one point, we had musical CDs and books on CDs, and now those are gone, and we've replaced it with more digital type items, or we have playaways for audiobooks now. We offer projectors that you can check out. We have podcast kits that you can check out. You can check out Chromebooks or hotspots. We have board games. So the collection itself has really expanded, and we offer a lot of things that you wouldn't typically think of when you think of a library.
Okay, just 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
Do you have any other memories or projects about the library you'd like to share? Oh, you haven't already shared.
Right. I would say one of the things that I have loved about working in Westchester is our community, our population here. We have people from all over the world who come in here. And to me, that is very exciting. I love meeting those people. I love learning about where they've come from and what they think of things here. And that's been very special. And I have had the opportunity to do one-on-one appointments with a lot of people. And so that really gives us time to talk a little bit about those types of things. I think that's very special for this area.
And I messed up a little bit. I actually have two more questions.
Sure.
So are there any local organizations you're currently or have been involved with that you'd like to talk about?
Yes. After having been here for a while, I learned about the Westchester Historical Society, and I learned about it first because they did archaeology digs, and I saw that and I thought, wow, what an opportunity. That sounded so fun. And so I got in touch with them and I joined, and I was actually able to participate in some of the archaeology digs. They were in Port Union. It was an old ice house. It was really exciting. We uncovered some of the groundwork of the buildings, the stone and the bricks, and nails and more nails and more nails, lots of nails, and just different pieces of equipment. It was very exciting. And so I've been a member there for a very long time now. And they've recently opened up a museum, and that's been a long time coming, and it's taken a lot of hard work, and really they've worked really hard to make it a very special place.
All right, and then my last question, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'll share one more thing. Probably, as much as I have loved working at the library, probably my greatest memory is that not long after starting in Westchester, we hired police to do a detail in the library. And that is how I met my husband. And we have now been married for 22 years. And so that's really my greatest memory of working here.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you, and thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.